So when you and I spoke last, I did not bake the Devin McCourty retirement into the equation. I think I had the Pats at 7 wins
Darn.
when we spoke. Patriots after that, and I also think they also got rid of Win too, which was put into it. We're at 5 now. I had them on the money last year, 8 wins. They had 8 wins. We're looking at 5 wins, man. This Patriots team, which I think in Vegas is 7.5 right now, they are being so overhyped. This team is bad.
They're
This is a
so bad that
roster.
they're the only team that you had on the graphic, just the coach, not even a player. Think of that.
Who the fuck are you going to put on there? Bailey
Uh,
Zappi? Mac Jones?
maybe Juju, but I don't think you have a pick. Matt Judon. Matt Judon's pretty good. I would maybe.
Could a regular fan pick Matt Judon out of the crowd?
No.
Exactly. It's bad. Mac Jones regressed. Bailey Zappi is okay. The running back group is fine. Stevenson, Robinson, Montgomery is fine. Receiver group is, Devontae Parker's good. And then the rest is
average.
Honestly, the rest it's really bad, man. Like Kendrick Bourne is okay. Smith Schuster's okay. Thornton's okay. And then like Matt Slater's their 5th receiver. Like their receiving group is bad this year.
I think that they're hoping that Keyshawn Booty, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, we'll see when it comes out. Yeah. Like this is a bad group. And then Hunter Henry is not the same player that he was in Los Angeles.
No.
We'll see what happens with Gesicki. He might be a pseudo receiver at this point, which he kind of was in Miami. He was like a slot, a big slot.
Yeah.
And then this offensive line, which is the weakness I have, is bad. Trent Brown is a name. That's it. Cole Strange is okay. David Andrews is good, but probably not the level you need for like a Super Bowl caliber center at this point. Michael Wendu's good. Like that, hands down, Michael Wendu's good.
Yeah.
Riley Reef is okay.
Yeah.
Calvin Anderson's okay. Connor McDermott's okay. But this like there's a lot of guys here that are okay or have decent names, but not what you need out of a NFL caliber offensive line.
No, and I think you look at rounds 4 and 5, right? They took two a guard and a center, City Sow and Jake Andrews, the center in the 4th round, right? And then they took in Antonio Mafi in the 5th round. So they took three picks, 2 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th of interior offensive linemen. So what is that telling you, right? They see the weakness there. They're investing in it to an extent, mid-round picks. But they realize that is a problem. And Trent Brown, obviously with his size, that's not going to hold up long-term in the NFL, right? I mean, he's had success in New England. When he left, he wasn't as great. He came back, he did well. So that's
Tom
great.
Brady's not his quarterback anymore. Like,
that's the other part.
That's something that I don't think fans understand. That when I was at PFF, they lived the charge, especially Eric Eager, who's now at Sumer Sports. Pressure is more of a quarterback stat than offensive line stat, because your tendency to hold onto the ball or get rid of it fast really determines pressure, right? Like I think it was the 2018 playoffs when they played when the Pats played the Chargers and Joey Bosa just fucking beat Trent Brown like a drum, but he had no pressures because Brady got out in under 2.5 seconds every damn time. Like that's not Trent Brown winning.
Yeah, right.
That is Tom Brady winning. Right. Now that you have Mac Jones, who does get out pretty fast, like he's not slow, but he's not Tom Brady.
Sure.
Like Tom Brady would consistently rank in the top 3 of time to throw every year. Mac Jones is not that. Trent Brown, they're paying him to be a franchise left tackle, but he's not. He's not that, man. And he's older. Like this is a rough offensive line for a rough offense, and everyone's in love that Bill O'Brien is back. Bill O'Brien is not going to be able to do anything with this group. This is a bad group.
It's a bad group.
It's a bad group. And then you look at the defense, like edge rushers, I have them as the favorite. And even that's like, we're talking about a favorite of a bad group here. Matthew Judon is by far the best player on the team. I like Dietrich Weiss. He's fine. Uche's fine. We'll see what Keon White can do. Anthony Jennings is pretty solid. So you got 5 guys there that you feel pretty good with at edge. And then D tackles, eh? Like, oh, it was Devon Godshaw. Like Christian Barrymore,
Lawrence Guy.
Guy, Ukele is like, this isn't okay. Linebacker group is whatever. It's fine. It's not great. It's deep. Like, it's like 5 guys deep in linebacker,
Yep.
but none of them are good. But plus starters, not bad. They're fine. They're average NFL starters, but they're not. No one's a plus starter there.
Yep.
And then you like to think Christian Gonzalez is going to be good, but we'll see. You have a rookie, especially when you're a rookie in a bad team like this. Like, we'll see. Originally, it was safety, which was the strength, right? It was Adrian Phillips, Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, and Devin McCourty. Those are phenomenal 4.
Yep.
McCourty leaves, and now it's Adrian Phillips is good, but and also I'll give like a little bit of a preview, a little hint behind the curtain here of how it is. It's all based on value grades, right? Like when we look at safeties, like NFL Super Bowl caliber teams have at least 1 plus safety, right? So if you have a plus safety, that's counted as even, right? And then the second plus safety, that's a +1, right? So when you had Phillips, Duggar, Peppers, and McCourty, you had Phillips was already a plus safety, so that's even, right? And then Duggar's a +1, and then McCourty was like another +1 because that's higher than you should have been, and then Peppers was a 4th safety. Most teams don't even have a good 4th safety, so that's another +1. So like you have like this really big, good safety group, and all of a sudden it drops down to just a 1 because Peppers is pretty even for what you expect from a safety 3. He's a great safety 4. He's an average safety 3. Kyle Duggar is a good second safety or strong safety, and Phillips is what you expect to have a free safety. So like you turned, again, not them. They didn't ask McCourty to retire. He just did, which I get because his team is bad. But this team is not good. This is a bad team. I think this team finishes top 10 in the draft. It begs a question here. Do you think Bill Belichick survives 2023? Whether he is fired or he
you think
down.
makes it to the end of the year?
Does he make it to 2024?
No, I don't think so. I think he's done. I think it's time for him to go. I think it's time for the organization to move on. Listen, he's undeniably one of the best, if not the best coach of all time. There's no doubt. But the run is over. I think it's in a weird way because they don't have the success, but in a weird way, the front office reminds me of the Knicks years, kind of not too long ago. And what I mean by that is I think that there's too much control in the front office, right? Like there's no one is making a decision in the front office for the Patriots. It's Bill Belichick, right? And as of a couple of years ago, Robert Kraft, I think, kind of saw that and took away his draft rights and his scouting rights, right? So he's the pseudo, or he is the GM technically, but not by name, right? There's a pseudo GM, if you will. But I think that has to kind of end. I think they'll go out on good terms. I'm sure that they will. But I think that, listen, you have a guy in Gerard Mayo who could step in, and he's been a hot candidate, of sorts in NFL circles and coaching carousels and in the search. So he would be another good option that's in-house. But who knows? Maybe they want a clean slate and move on from Belichick completely, and we'll see.
No, I agree. It does bring up the debate of should coaches have a say in the 90-man, right? Because a lot of coaches don't. A lot of coaches only have control of 53, and some don't even have control of that. Like I know Joe Douglas has the 53 control, so Saleh doesn't even pick who makes the team in the end. I think he picks the 45, and honestly, he picks who starts.
Right.
But he has no control over who actually makes the roster.
Yeah.
I am fully of the belief that if coaches were good at drafting, that making the 90, there wouldn't be a personnel staff. But they're not.
They're not.
And it's partly because they don't have enough time, right? NFL coaching is crazy complex,
Yeah.
and you just don't have the time to then sit and like there's not a day, it's not like being an NFL fan, right? Where you watch football on Sunday and like you maybe watch the Monday night game and then you don't watch anything on Tuesday. So like, all right, I'll watch action or whatever on Tuesday, and then you don't watch anything on Wednesday. So like you'll watch maybe you'll watch the highlights on like the Texas game or whatever. And
Yeah.
then there's a night game, and then Friday happens, and you watch whatever games on Friday night, like Louisville versus fucking Duke, whatever. And then Saturday you watch the Saturday slate of college games, and then Sunday again. NFL coaches, they are just dialed in
Yeah.
from they don't go home. Like players get Monday off, coaches do not. They are dialed in for the entire season, and then when they get done, they are burnt out. They're burnt out. Like like they'll do some scouting work, but like NFL draft boards are in like their middle phase by January. By the time the coaches are done with their coaching job, the
Yeah.
draft board's like already halfway done. So you're gonna say like, all right, coach, now especially someone like the Patriots, right, who used to go deep into the playoffs, like they'd be done in February. Like Bill Belichick wouldn't stop coaching until after the All-Star games were over. So
Yeah.
you would have missed all of that. So it's like, all right, Bill, you missed
Everything.
75%
Yeah.
of the draft process. Go pick a player now. It's like, okay, like that's you're so behind at that
Yeah.
point.
You are.
Like it's coaches. I really don't think coaches should have to say in the 90 and in the draft. I think that also they should have input, but at the end it should not be their decision. And I think a lot of times and you see this in recruiting, you see it in scouting. Coaches, especially position coaches, do not know what they're actually looking for.
Right.
The amount of time, and like you've been an assistant coach before, I'm an assistant coach. There have been times I've asked coaches, like, 'cause, like I create rubrics so I can show it to parents and be like, this is why your kid's not starting. This is why this kid is. I'll be like, all right, listen, tell me about your defense. Like, explain to me what are you looking for in a player, and they'll like, oh, I want a corner, who's good at zone. I'm like, all right, great. And then we go through his defense, and he plays 95% man. It's like,
Right.
what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we're like, oh, I want these big, stout defensive linemen, and then he has to run stunts every other play. It's like, no, you don't. You actually don't want that. You think you want that,
Yeah.
but you don't want that.
Exactly.
And that happens so often with coaches who are like, or the main one, right? They fall in love with the body type. Like, oh,
Oh yeah.
that guy coming off the bus, and it's like, well, it's not high school.
Yeah.
It's like, that's great that he looks big, but like,
Yeah.
can he do anything? Like, can he actually do
Right.
anything? Like,
That-
no.
That's
He can
something
do
that
the big arm.
we've learned as coaches that that we've seen it, and it's like you have to be able to trust, right, that what's kind of being done, and that's why I think it's really hard for a lot of guys because they're not good at delegating those roles.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's really hard.
I think for a guy like Bill Belichick, it may be harder for him, and maybe he's learned it as the years have gone on, maybe a little bit, but I think it's kind of like, and I don't mean to say this in a negative sense, but it's kind of like helicopter parents. When the parent steps away and the kid steps into the real world, there's a huge adjustment period. Now, what I mean by that with Bill Belichick is look at his coaching tree, if you will, or his coaches.
So bad.
Once he's no longer there, helicoptering around, they're not as good, right? They don't know how to kind of function in a sense, or they struggle, right? So I
Well,
think
I think a lot of that, and I agree with you. I think a lot of that is because when you have someone that's teaching you like a scheme, right? Like because you have a new scheme that you're running in your team, and you're learning about that scheme, right? And you're talking to that coach who's teaching you that scheme, right? You can do that. You can learn a new scheme. Bill Belichick, year in year out, will change his offense and defense
Yeah.
based on the personnel he has and who he's playing. There are times he'll play a different defense just from one week to the next.
Yeah.
Because this man has forgotten more about ball than most of us will ever know, right? That is what makes Bill Belichick so great. It's not, the defense he runs, the offense he runs, or the mind he has for scouting. It's the fact that he knows this dude is a football historian. Like get him and Sean McVay together, and they could probably have a blast.
Yep.
He just knows. There's nothing that an offense or defense can show Bill Belichick that he doesn't have an answer for.
Yeah.
Right? He just has it. You can't give that to a pupil or a student, right? That is something you just earn over time, and you have to study for it. And even when you study for it, you don't always get it, right? Like you can't give that because he's not giving a scheme. Right. There's no Bill Belichick scheme. There's no Bill Belichick offense or defense, right? There's a reason why he loves these versatile players because he changes his defense every other play. Like it's just before the idea of like multiple defenses was a thing, he was doing it.
Yeah.
Like back in the day where these were a 3-4, this is a 4-3. It's like never Bill Belichick. He's like he's gonna be a 4-3 day. Will be a 4-3 for this set of plays, and then he's a 3-4, and then he's a bear, and he's an odd. It's like, all right, it is what it is. Like it's good for him. You can't pass that down. And I think if Bill Belichick chose to be a GM, he'd be the best GM of all time. But I just don't think you can be both.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the problem. I think if Bill Belichick was a full-time general manager, I think if Bill Belichick stepped away from coaching and became a full-time general manager, he'd be the best general manager in the game. But I just don't think you can do both. It's too complex of a game, especially now. And also now it's a nonstop game.
Yeah.
It is just impossible to stay ahead with the personnel stuff. So I think it's time for him to step down. And I get it. Like, you know what? If I knew my gift was just an unbelievable knowledge of the game, how could you delegate?
Yeah. No,
right?
It's nuts. Yeah, you can't.
It's like, all right, well, I know for a fact you know less than me.
Exactly. And and I think he probably hasn't come to the grips with that, to be honest.
It's just too hard. And honestly, I don't blame him. It's really hard. And listen, he got where he is today because of it. He's one of the best coaches of all time, if not the best coach of all time. But I do think it's time to hang him up.